take a trip through the AFC North. Let's talk a little Baltimore Ravens off the top. Kelley, it feels like the same drill. You're running into the Chiefs wall, the Bills wall. What's different about this year?
I don't know that there's much, right, Jeff? And I don't know if that's the most exciting answer, but I do expect those teams right at the AFC to continue to be right at the top. And then when we talk this division, as you just kind of hinted, I think it's, especially after a season ago, right? It's even harder to view. I think those other teams at the bottom catching up to where in my opinion, to where the Bengals are at and then where the Ravens are at, where I think they are in a tier by themselves right now. I love this Bengals offense, but I think there's still major question marks. As far as the Ravens, though, okay, we're talking about what they did during the offseason. It's just moves around the margins for the most part, right? You add DeAndre Hopkins, Jair Alexander. How huge of an impact are they going to make? I mean, they can't hurt, but I don't know that you should be expecting massive things from those types of players at this point in their career. New kicker in town. All of a sudden, they're going to have two with Justin Tucker gone from this team. Look, this was I was really curious to see what this Ravens team was going to look like last year after adding Derrick Henry. That worked out pretty good. And it really opened up some things on the offense. It looked like it took a lot of pressure off Lamar Jackson to go out there, run around, and make some plays, even though he ended up with a ton of rushing yards as well last year with that backfield. So, look, this is from week 9 to the end of the season. This Ravens team were second in NFL and EPA per play. These are all some notes from Zach Cohen in our NFL betting guide. This is a team I expect to be right there near the top of the AFC. I think I would have the Bills still above them, but they are my number 2 team in the AFC. Like them in this division, not running to make a bet, though, because I do think the Bengals are still within reach, though, of catching them, especially if there is an injury that occurs at some point in time with the quarterback.
Tough early season schedule at Baltimore in week 1. Get the Browns at home in week 2, but home against the Lions in week 3, at the Chiefs in week 4, play the Texans, the Rams after that. Some good teams on the schedule, which is it's a first-place schedule. It's what you'd expect there. Final note on the Ravens, win total 11.5. Do you got the over or the under, Kelley?
Right now, I would lean over, but the schedule that you just talked through, Jeff, I think that's what we're talking about. When I brought this up yesterday in the first segment, This is the time of year to make notes about your schedules, right? So I'm high on the Rams. I might be looking for that bye week to jump in on an over on this Ravens team. Let's see how you do against the Bills, Lions, Chiefs, Texans, Rams before you hit that bye week in week 7. That would be my time where I'd really be interested in playing an over on the win total. That's what I've got circled on my calendar at home. That's how I'll be attacking it.
Nick Whalen, let's talk about my Cincinnati Bengals. You yesterday were saying you were a little bit down on them a little bit, and I understand the reasons why. I share that pessimism. Still not too many big improvements on a defense. How many 30-point games can you lose? I mean, the Bengals had that 4 times last season. Duke Tobin goes and says, I don't want to spend more on the same roster. They spent more on the same roster. What's your outlook on the Bengals overall?
Yeah, well, taking a look at this division overall, I'm still on the Ravens here. I have the Ravens winning the AFC. I think they are going down that same path again, where it's just kind of get us through the regular season. We'll win 11 or 12 games, and then it's going to come down to, can you beat Buffalo? Can you beat Kansas City? We'll see if they can get that pass defense where it needs to be. Ravens were 26th, by the way, in pass defense EPA last season. As far as Cincinnati goes, Jeff, I think you laid it out well. They're basically running it back. And, I think they feel really good about where they are offensively, and rightfully so. We do forget that this time last year, Jeff, we were having the Chase Brown versus Zach Moss debate, which seems crazy in hindsight, given what they got out of Chase Brown last year. But I think knowing that you have that in place, having a pass-catching running back just adds another dimension to this offense. So I have very few concerns about the Bengals offense. We could quibble about the offensive line if we want. Maybe the biggest concern is, can T. Higgins stay healthy? A guy who feels like he's perpetually been banged up throughout the first few years of his career. But I think all the questions for Cincinnati have to come on the defensive end. And beyond that, when you're looking at the win total, when you're looking at, when's the opportunity to jump in on this team, can the Bengals finally get off to a decent start, Jeff? Finally. Zach Taylor has not only been terrible in week 1, he's been terrible in week 2. This is a team that's always in a hole to begin the year. And you just can't afford to do that in such a competitive division like the AFC North. Obviously, we expect Cleveland to be way behind the pack, but the Steelers will probably do what they always do, with Aaron Rodgers and, win somewhere between 9 and 11 games. Obviously you could feel like you could pencil in the Ravens for 11 to 12 wins, assuming that they're relatively healthy. So what I really want to see from Zach Taylor is a reasonable game plan in week 1. I want the Bengals to have a chance to get off to a 1-1, 2-0 start, which would be significantly better than anything they've done in the Zach Taylor era. And look, they'll have a great chance to do it, Jeff. They're on the road at the Cleveland Browns in week 1. I know they've had some big time stumbles early in the season, especially these last couple of years, but a great chance to get off to a hot start. They get the Jacksonville Jaguars at home in week 2. That's a very winnable game. You get the Minnesota Vikings. It'll be J.J. McCarthy's 3rd career start in week 3. So a lot of questions about this defense. I don't think they've necessarily solved the issues that plagued this team last year, but I'm optimistic, Jeff, that they could finally get off to a decent start this season.
Yeah, Jeff, well, you're the Cincy guy, so I want to throw this back to you and your thoughts on the Bengals this season, but specifically the start, like Nick's talking about, and how many Circa Survivor players will they burn for the 3rd straight year? I mean, Browns, Jags. This guy too. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that are very interested in playing those two teams. Do you think we see some people throttle back their enthusiasm for the Bengals at the start of the season this year?
The stat you're going to hear a billion times, I think that's a rough estimate, is going to be Zach Taylor is 1-11 in weeks 1 and 2 in his 6 years in the NFL. 7-14-1 in September overall. Yeah, maybe we should try something different in training camp in the preseason this year. Just going out on a limb there. Trey Hendrickson's still unhappy. Shamar Stewart still unsigned. It's the same old Bengals being Bengals here. Are you a contender or are you not a contender? Are you just happy to pay? They pay Burrow, they pay Chase, they pay Higgins. And yet they make a stand with their first-round pick that they've never done before. They're a lot counting on new defensive coordinator Al Golden to develop the slew of early picks that haven't developed over the years. Over-under is either 10.5, 9.5 in some places. DK BetMGM, it's 10.5, juice to the over, 9.5, juice to the juice to the under on the 10.5s, and juice to the over on the 9.5s, of course. I think it's going to be right there again because I think the offense is going to be amazing again. I want to invest in fantasy. I wouldn't want to invest my spirit in them like I always do.
Play it or pass it. Longest regular season winning streak for the Cleveland Browns. We're looking at the under 1.5 games at plus 140. So we're saying at no point the Browns will win 2 straight.
Man, this is relatively easy for me, but this is a play it, fellas. You start digging into the schedule. We already know this should be one of the worst teams in the NFL. They are in one of if not the toughest divisions in the NFL. 1.5 games. Okay, all you got to do is win 2 games in a row. It's Titans-Bears is probably their easiest 2 games in a row on the schedule. This would be a play it for me, fellas. Under 1.5 games for a winning streak at plus money. Yeah, a play it for me.
I'm with you on that, Kelly. That Titans-Bears one in week 14 and 15, that's what I would have circled. But even the quote-unquote easy games, if there is such a thing for the Cleveland Browns, almost all of those on the road this season. We're looking at division wins for the Pittsburgh Steelers, over 2.5, getting this at minus 130. And I will let you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers have gone over this number in 15 straight seasons. So over 2.5 wins in the AFC North. Play it or pass it.
Yeah, I like them getting all the Steelers wins questions because any of the numbers games listeners are just cracking up at home right now. Based on the history you just went over, Nick, I'm going to say over because, yes, I think they could beat up on the Browns and then they will pull off some random upset over the Ravens at the worst time possible for the Ravens during the season or something like that. So, yes, play it over 2.5 for me.
Pittsburgh Steelers, 60-30. Division record since 2010. Last time they went under this number was back in 2009. Did some digging on that last night. My guy Dennis Dixon started a game for the Steelers last time they went under 2.5 division wins. Kelly, the Baltimore Ravens to lose in the AFC Championship game, a very specific prop here at plus 550. Would you consider playing this one?
This is really getting inside my brain, too, because I've said it's Ravens, it's Bills, it's Chiefs down to the end. So this could make a lot of sense for how I have things playing out, where the Ravens would exit at. But, man, I need a longer price to get involved on a prop like this. This is too short to get the exact round of elimination of when the Ravens are going to go out. So it'll be a pass it for me on this one.
All right, Kelly, got an interesting one on the Bengals for you. Regular season total points scored over 445.5. This is at minus 110. Play it or pass it.
Yeah, I know this is a relatively high number for this market. I made a similar bet over on the Cowboys regular season point total for this season. It's kind of similar handicapping. It would be a play it on the over for me. This is like we talked about a lot last segment. I don't know that I'm seeing this drastic difference between this Bengals roster a year ago and this season. I think the offense will be very effective, and then there are a lot of questions on the defensive side of the ball in a competitive AFC. How often are they going to have to play catch up, or just have the offense to stay in the game? So yeah, that's a play it. I'll go play it over on the points.